Yeah. And I always ask, where's your power? It's either in you or outside of you. It's with
Right.
everyone else, or it's inside you, your source. You're connected to the source field. You are it, right?
That's
And
right.
you're just here for a human experience.
Yeah.
And
Got to
we
call that
forget,
power back.
yeah, we forget that we create it all, that we have choice of how we want to react. Do we want to give the power to them? Oh, they said this and that. And, it feels real at the time, but that's because you chose to give your power away.
Hi, I'm Scott Ware. This is Interviews on Xpnsion Network. I'm the publisher of Radiance Magazine, a part of Radiance Multidimensional Media. And I have with me today Galit Reuben, who is a transformation coach. Welcome, Galit.
Oh, thank you, Scott.
Now, I understand we're going to talk about some special work you do with animals a little later, but with people, with two-legged animals, you do something with the morphogenic field with people. What is that and how does that work?
Good question. Well, the field is a field of information that we as humanity, or all living things, are connected through. I'm sure your readers probably know quite a bit about, well, enough about it to say that, hey, we are all connected.
Yes.
And you know how when you have a pair of twins, for example, let's say something, the twins maybe live in different parts of the world.
Sure.
If something happens to one twin, and this is, I think documented, where if something traumatic or big happens to one twin, the other
The other twin knows instantly.
will feel it,
Yep.
right? Same with a mother and child. If something traumatic happened to the child, the mother would have a sense of it as well. And I know that they've studied like a cell, like if you divide a cell and you take it and you put it somewhere completely different, halfway across the world, and then you manipulate it in different ways, this
Yes.
original cell will also respond accordingly.
And this is
What
sort
is
of like,
that? Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
And no, I was just going to say, as far as, and this is the background of what happens when you're helping people. What would you say are some of the results of when people come to you? What changes do they experience? What transformations?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, these cells, the morphogenic field, since we're all connected, you have your family field, and then that's a close field that you can feel, right? And then there's the bigger field around us on different levels, which is the morphogenic field. I can connect to your field, of course, with your permission, because we have to have your intention of letting me into your field to give it instructions depending on what your blocks are that are
Right.
embedded in your subconscious mind. And we know that we can work on the subconscious all we want all day and night. It's a slow process because we've been living a certain way, having a certain belief system all our lives, and suddenly we're told, hey, you can change your thoughts and your ways of being, your old limiting beliefs, your conditioning, by just starting to create new daily habits and repeating them many times over, so you can create the new grooves in your brain to form the new behavior.
Sure.
And that takes a long time when we do it from down here.
Right.
Meaning on a physical level, taking the action every single day, repeating it until it becomes habit, including our own thoughts. That's the slow way. The fast way is to go from above through the field and just give your mind a set of instructions sort of like hypnotherapy, but not like hypnotherapy. In hypnotherapy, I'd have to put you in a trance and give your subconscious mind instructions. Here, you're not in a trance. You just sit with your eyes closed and listen to me talk to an aspect of you through your superconscious. And so you asked me what the results are in relation to doing it from the field, right? That was your question?
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't get way off.
Well, okay. And it sounds like that's a gentler way maybe of approaching it.
Oh my God, it's so much less work, because part of the issue of having to form a new habit and thought patterns just on our own, or through any coaching that's done on the ground level, on the subconscious and superconscious or conscious level, is it's work. And half the part is actually getting to do the work and not skipping a day, and not just starting and doing a week and then just falling off the wagon and having to right, how many times have we been there? So it is quicker and it is so much easier. Just show up to a session and have me do it.
Sure.
And once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever. That's the difference. It's just so much less work on your end, and so much more enjoyable.
Well, and I see on your website, which is galitreuben.com, that these are the kinds of things people looks like they're coming to you for, that you can help them with, which is like stress and anxiety, which a lot of people are feeling these days, past traumas. And then you have some clients down here talking about the great work you did. The lenses work like a roadmap, laying out my short-term and long-term goals. It was easy to follow the paths with Galit, guiding me through each step. And then she talks about the recode. What is the recode?
Okay. The recode is exactly what I was speaking of, is what we do in a session.
Okay.
The recode takes about 20 minutes on its own.
Okay.
A typical session is an hour, but most of the time we just talk. We don't talk about painful pasts. We don't talk about fixing anything about you, because you're a perfect creator. You were born here to create. When you take a bunch of babies and you see them in the hospital ward, and you look at these, let's say you're in the maternity ward and you're looking at all these babies in their bassinet, they all have the same swaddle and they all have the same cap on. They're pretty much the same, perfect little babies. But then you take them home, well, you look at them and you're like, what are they going to be? Right? What are they going to be when they grow up? Are they going to be, oh, that one could be president. That one could be a philanthropist. Nobody says, oh, that one's going to have anxiety and be a drug dealer, and that one's going to go to jail. No one thinks like that. But then you take them home and you put them in their structure of home, and you tell them, oh, money doesn't grow on trees and you're never going to amount to anything. People can't help it. They just repeat what their parents said to them. And it's an endless cycle. Or the world is hard, you have to work hard, you have to amount to something, you have to get good grades, just the pressure of just being a kid. Right? And so what we do in the recode is undo everything we were told, because it isn't true. It just isn't true. It's what society has led us to believe, and what the structure that the family and the past has led them to believe. But the future doesn't negate, the past does not negate the future. You can just create. So if you think that you can't, it doesn't mean that you can't.
It's interesting, because when people are stuck before they would get help from someone like you, it's funny how the past does influence the future. You would think, well, the past is influencing my present, perhaps. No, it goes even further than that. It influences your future.
Absolutely, because our focus creates our reality, which instill the beliefs, right? We have beliefs. Oh, I can't do that, so we're not even going to try. And then maybe we tried half-heartedly and failed, or we didn't have the full belief, or we didn't do what it really takes. And then we fail, and then we say, see, I told you I couldn't do it.
Exactly. Right? And we get to be right, and that's a little juice we get from that.
Absolutely. The old identity, that one that's trying to keep us small and safe in the subconscious goes, see, I told you so.
Right.
See, I was right. You couldn't do it. And that's just an endless loop. What if you didn't have that?
Exactly. You would be more free, I imagine. What are some things people do say after they've had the recode once or twice, or are they feeling more free and empowered?
Oh my God, yes.
Mm.
I'm I'm one of those people.
You were a client first, maybe,
I
yes?
was a client first. Yeah.
Mm.
I was, okay. So in the first session, you might feel some shifts, some differences. It's a lot of times the second session and on, because first you're just getting familiar
Sure.
with it, and you can have a really, really powerful session and see results right away. But as you do the work, it just gets becomes more and more effective. So what do people see? Yeah, that's it. So my first session you can get at this time for $99.
Ah,
There's a first trial session.
special. Okay, good.
That is at the moment. I might have to change it as my spaces run out.
Sure.
But at this time, you can book your first session for only $99 as a
Oh, there it is.
trial.
Okay.
Yeah, and I explain there what to expect. So what do people feel, and what they feel during a session varies.
Mhm.
There's no right or wrong.
Sure.
It's your superconscious that's doing it. I don't know if you've ever meditated or done any kind of spiritual work. Sometimes you yawn a lot, and that's an energy shift. So
Mm.
there's yawning. Sometimes there's emotions that bubble up and just kind of
Sure.
leave. Sometimes it feels like, my first time, I remember it felt like a breath was taken for me. It was kind of cool. Sometimes
Interesting.
there's just weird thoughts that come across your mind. You're like, what? Well, I haven't thought of that since I was in junior high. Why did I just think of that thought? You
Ah,
think
okay.
it's random, but it's not. And sometimes you just don't, you're just calm and you just feel relaxed. There's no right or wrong of what is going to come up and what you're going to feel. But no matter what, as long as you sit and you give permission for me to access your superconscious and give it instructions, it is working. Afterwards, what you might feel is, well, after you might be calm, but
Okay.
within a couple of days, depending on situations that you find yourself in, that you're used to finding yourself in, all of a sudden you may notice that you are maybe less triggered. Maybe
Sure.
you get less angry at something, or
More
maybe,
grounded or centered.
oh, more centered, more grounded. The things that come out of your mouth, like I remember just being in a situation where things were going to escalate to maybe an argument, right? And I was already in a wonderful relationship, but things happen, and I thought, well, I'm going to take this personally, and I'm going to get offended, and I'm going to be hurt. And then
Yeah.
instead, I was just like, so matter of factly was able to just, hey, look, this is how it is. We can either do this or we can do that. But, honestly, I think, I was just so matter of fact without the trigger. And I there was a pause, and we both kind of went, who was that? Who just said that? And it was just such a wonderful way it affects relationships, because you're not fueling anything. You're just not fueling the fire.
You're like numb. Yeah.
And it's not numb. You're just so even. You're just so
Oh,
even
gotcha. You're not being
minded.
triggered. Yeah.
You're not triggered. You're just able to. So when we do this, we're not losing anything. We're keeping the wisdom. We're releasing the triggers, keeping the wisdom. So
Okay.
your answers are wise, not
That's
triggered.
good. Yeah, I can see that, and it sounds like it happens fairly quickly.
It does. It does. Faster than anything else, I can tell you that much.
Wow.
And you keep it. So with hypnotherapy, you might cover up, a behavior, kind of like hide it,
Okay.
but it's still down there. right? It's not released. So what we do is just release whatever is ready to release in the right time. The superconscious, the field of information, is so intelligent, right? It's all knowing. And
Sure.
so it will release what it needs to release at the right time, because we can't release everything, because if we released well, we can release everything, but just not at once. If we
Sure.
released everything at once, you'd be unrecognizable, and you probably wouldn't be very comfortable with yourself.
Right.
And the people around you probably wouldn't be comfortable and with you either.
I can imagine. Yeah. So you got to, I mean, you have to follow your intuition, follow your path, and,
Ease into it.
you know, yeah.
But
Um,
it's
but
fast, very fast.
how does this work with animals?
Well, since humans are connected through a morphogenic field, there's other layers of field, and there's animal field. And when we connect to them, obviously we can't really get their permission so easily. We have to just make sure that it is for the highest good,
Yes.
and that we have a true choice for them. Because a lot of pet owners may approach me, because I've founded a nonprofit dog rescue. This is how I became involved with animals to begin with. I have a nonprofit called Dogs Without Borders that I have founded and preside over on the board.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of traumatic animals with the thousands of dogs that, have been helped through the organization.
Oh,
So
sounds
there's
like
a
great
lot.
work.
Thank you. Yeah, it is
Do
really
you
dear.
work with horses?
I do not work with horses at this time. Doesn't
Okay.
mean I won't. Actually, a member of our board works with horses a lot. So we're going to do some beta testing with her horses to get started with horses. But I have worked with dogs and cats at this time.
Sure.
And some of the dogs we rescue are dogs from Korea that have been used for the dog meat trade. So they're raised for meat, and they have not been treated well. They don't know how to be pets, and they have a lot of fear and lack of trust in them. And therefore we help to diffuse some of that trauma that they've experienced. So right now I'm in beta testing, where first we have to make sure it's a true choice. People come to me and say, hey, I want my dog not to be this or that.
Sure.
And we want to make sure, hey, is your dog just being a dog and it's just an inconvenience to you?
Right.
Or is the dog really have some stuff that's just not serving it anymore? It's got a good life, you're doing all the right things, but it just is hanging on to this past, this trauma. And so we work on releasing that. And so I do have a beta special for $99 to work on pets. And it may take more than one session, but that it includes the one payment of $99, just because we're still in beta testing.
And how can people reach you?
They can write to me on my site. I actually may add a pet link on the site, just so people can
Sure.
and they can find me on Facebook.
So GalitReuben.com.
Yeah, GalitReuben.com. Reuben like a sandwich, Reuben, like the Reuben, infamous Reuben sandwich, although I don't eat meat, but.
Are you, it sounds like there's some crossover with animal communication. Are you an animal communicator?
I am taking up some animal communication. There is some intuitive work. Absolutely. Sure. Yes. So we are practicing intuitively to understand what the pets need first before giving the instructions. So yes, it's a combination. It is a combination of intuition.
And I guess working with any pet, you're also working with the, I don't want to say owner, but what's the other word? The pet's guardian.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can call it owner. It's just, hey, the pet came to, to be with this person at this time.
Sure.
They are, the pet came here by choice as well. We're all here by choice, including that pet. And pets have so much to teach us, and they do really react to our our emotions. If we're stressed, they're gonna know it, and they're gonna react. If we are sad, if we have anxiety, if we're overwhelmed, if we are angry or depressed, they're gonna react accordingly. So a lot of times they mirror things that we have, including medical issues, including, our health.
Right.
And so that's really important to address. And yes, sometimes we work on both the pet and the human together, just
I was
not
going to say, I could see how that would be helpful.
absolutely. We work on the relationship. And again, the field tells us if we need to work on the pet or the person or both, or, hey, look, it's actually, I just had this where I was working with a dog that had some trauma, and he has been a little better, but he's really reacting to his owner, and the owner is under a lot of stress, and I know, and she knows that
Yeah.
it's her. So, we are just working with her and not him
Okay.
because he's perfect the way he is. She knows
Right.
that she needs to release her trauma
Okay.
past.
Well, and going back to people, what have you taught people about the field that they can go out and use? Like what kinds of magic, I imagine, to use that word, I love that word,
Mhm.
are you able to help expand in them? I mean, are you giving
Well,
them tips on how to
yeah.
manifest?
Yeah, I have to say that it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff.
Hmm.
When you are in your wounding from your past, and I call it wounding, the stuff that made you who you are in your subconscious from when you were young, because you're still operating through the world. You're viewing the world from a childish perspective. Childish perspective. Does that say? That's a tongue twister for me. But when you view the world through that, because your subconscious was formed from the time you were in the womb until the age 7, right?
Right.
And then your conscious mind takes over your identity. You become self-aware. It doesn't really take over. Your subconscious is always running in the background, right?
Right.
Making decisions for you. However, and the reason I say it's from a childish perspective, is it's still thinking like that child. I'm not allowed. I don't know
Yeah.
enough. I'm not worthy. I have to be good. I have to be quiet. And
Right.
so it's operating in your background all the time. And that's down here on this level, on this lower vibrational level. So you can live your life and be just stuck in the muck about situation, everything. This is a problem and that is a problem. If you go up from a higher perspective, from your superconscious, and just view it, just pretend that you are not a victim down
Right.
here, that you just rise above it all and view it from a superconscious perspective, from a bird's eye, and ask, where's the problem now? And really, really focus on the two, victim perspective versus a superconscious perspective. Where
Yeah.
is the problem?
And that's empowering because you distance yourself from it. You're not caught up in the emotions. The emotions aren't dragging you, and you can observe it and understand you're not a part of it. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That was an interesting experience. I'm not totally being towed under by it.
Mhm.
And I'd like to move on now. And I can do that because I'm empowered, because I can see it from that God's eye or bird's eye point of view.
Yeah. And I always ask, where's your power? It's either in you or outside of you. It's with
Right.
everyone else, or it's inside you, your source. You're connected to the source field. You are it, right?
That's
And
right.
you're just here for a human experience.
Yeah.
And
Got to call that power back.
yeah, we forget that we create it all, that we have choice of how we want to react. Do we want to give the power to them? Oh, they said this and that. And, it feels real at the time, but that's because you
That's right.
chose to give your power away.
And at the time, it's all we knew to do. You know, it was the best we could do. We were in some kind of survival mode, and that defense mechanism or coping mechanism worked to some degree, but we needed, as adults especially, we need to transform it now, because we're not that 5 or 12-year-old reacting to something that is producing trauma.
Yeah, and it's not your
we want to be
fault.
free.
It's
Right?
important to know it's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. There's nothing wrong
Exactly.
with you. That's it, really. It's just, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your old wounding. It's just what's embedded in your subconscious. And you know, the truth is that it's not all our memories in this lifetime. We also carry trauma from past lives. I release past life trauma all the time in my recodes. There's an event that gets stuck that we carry with us and we don't even realize. And you don't need to do all this past life regression or it doesn't matter where or what. I'll find it and release it. And we don't even have to know when or what or how. It doesn't matter. It's just, you don't have to know. You don't have to relive anything. And so there's that. And also we inherited trauma from our ancestors. We didn't just inherit our hair color, our eye color, our skin color, our height, our weight, our, whatever, like, our health, whatever we think we're, that's not it. Is it safe to say that when an animal in the forest maybe travels to a new part that it's never been in, and suddenly, a tiger appears, and, luckily, you knew to run away quickly enough to survive, and then have a litter, have have whatever it is, you're a deer or whatever, your offspring. Is it safe to say that it's smart for evolution to pass along that fear, to be aware either of this part of the forest or be aware of this animal? Is it safe to say that in order for the survival of the species, we pass along that information to our offspring? And it's been studied up to 7 generations deep, from what I understand, that we pass along this information for the preservation of the species. Humans are the same.
So it's fear, but for the preservation of the species. But because we know we're not being chased by, the tigers from the past, and when it's Siberian tigers, right? We don't need that, because when we start feeling stress, which I know you help people with, you start feeling stress, you're thinking these thoughts that are harmful to you. Your body doesn't know the difference. It believes it's being harmed, and then it's that there's a real stress, a real problem, and then your immune system starts breaking down. That's a good thing to be free of, and that's what you help people with.
Yeah, it's kind of a primitive, belief that's embedded there, or trigger. I mean, imagine our ancestors that have been through, world wars or
migrations,
Holocaust victims, famine, and actually I had a client who had just always felt in lack of, she always needed to eat, always needed food. She wasn't hungry, but she always had a fear that she was going to go hungry. And then when we dissected it a little bit, we realized that she had ancestors that grew up in the Great Depression in the Dust Bowl, and they had nothing. And so she always had a fear of lack of food, even though she was abundant. She knew she was abundant consciously, but she's like, it started when she was 3 years old.
That's so valuable, because you help to release that, and
Absolutely.
that's going to transform her life for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. it's beautiful. She's lost a lot of weight and and just loving life. So
Nice.
yeah,
Excellent. What would you say to people out there who should be looking for you? What are people experiencing out there that you can help with?
thank you. Anyone with a subconscious mind.
Okay.
18 or older, please, it's important to let our kids be kids. They need to learn and orientate themselves, understand that it's okay to make mistakes. But ultimately, I think that everyone has limitations, from the people who have had great childhoods, who've had loving parents. Somehow, maybe at school, someone made fun of them.
Yeah,
Maybe they had rejection. Maybe they have a personality that's just competitive and whatever. They just feel like they're not adequate, that it's not, wherever you go, society has pressure on us. And we think we have to be perfect. We think we have to be a certain way. And even all those people with all the certificates on their wall of just accomplishments and accomplishments and accomplishments, it's wonderful that they have all those accomplishments, but they really never feel like they're enough. And that's perhaps why those certificates, where they're just always going for that next thing, because it's
mm,
never enough. They never feel satisfied. And what about the people who, you know, um, who have it all, but there's an identity that, maybe in their parents' eyes, that they always have to achieve for their parents, or, also abuse victims, or a family dynamic, like maybe two siblings have always been competitive with one another, and one sibling excelled and the other, who, just never felt competent.
sure.
Even though they perfectly are, but they have this limiting beliefs that they're just not enough, or not, if maybe a parent got sick and then a nanny had to come. We have when we were
Yeah,
babies, suddenly we have abandonment issues, and we can't seem to
right.
keep relationships. We always abandon first, or put something in the way when things get good,
Yeah,
because we don't know how to achieve a relationship, because we were abandoned. So we're always going to be the first ones to leave, so we don't get hurt. And we don't even realize that, just because, hey, mom got sick when I was a baby, and so some stranger had to take care of me for a while.
hmm,
Um,
right.
I'm saying that because I had a client that, really had relationship issues because of whatever. It just could be anything. We all have it. Um, Anything. And then, speaking of relationship abuse, I am a victim of child abuse, and I started a group for relationship abuse, of any kind, because we always blame our circumstances and what was done to us, and feel like we're not as advantaged as others. And that's
Sure.
just not true. That's a limiting belief. And so,
Yeah, and you told me you also have a Facebook group?
yeah, I do. So it's called Rise into Self-Love. It's a free group. And I just give some small vignette lessons there. So when people come in there and they have some aha moments of just what they've been, looking at it through their lens,
Sure.
all this time, where it could be just looking through a different lens at the world, which can really help change things for you.
So people can find you at galitreuben.com,
Yes,
REUBEN.com.
yes.
And thank you for doing this interview with me. This has been
Oh,
great.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for including me. And I look forward to, helping as many people as possible, like I've been helped.
And we need more of that with all the stress going around.
Really do. Yeah,
All right.
we can
All right.
create our own reality and our own passion, for a better life.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Galit. And this has been Interviews on Xpnsion Network. I'm Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.